The Shooting Range. In this episode, pages of history, a North Sea battle, arsenal, best loadouts for the Gripen, and metal beasts, model strike aircraft. The Su-25 aircraft needs no special introduction. Basically, every version available in the game is popular in high-rank battles. Not so long ago, this legendary family received a new, cutting-edge modification that we can surely call a Super Rook. Please welcome the Su-25SM3. Unlike the anti-tank version, the Super Rook is based on a single-seat modification, so it resembles the early non-humpback attacker. Well, looks aren't the main part of a combat aircraft anyway. What matters is flight performance. And that's where today's highlight delivers. The SM3 has the highest thrust-to-weight ratio among all the SU aircraft. Its engines can output almost 8,000 kilogram forces in the war emergency power mode. You won't see a huge difference in the dynamics though, but we need to remind you that this is a subsonic strike aircraft, not a fighter. Basically, any Su-25 is fast enough compared to its main competition. In air combat, the Super Rook can definitely keep up with its predecessors. It's a modern machine, so it can't carry the outdated R-60 AAMs on external hardpoints. Instead, it has the very good R-73 missile, even if it only has 2 of them. You won't find the jammer familiar from the anti-tank version here, but this aircraft can boast a comprehensive defense system, including a radar warning receiver. This system can deflect some threats automatically, dispensing chaff and flares. Speaking of countermeasures, there are now 284 of them, and some have a large caliber. Still though, a strike aircraft's role in any air combat is limited to defense. The true element of the Su-25 is attacking ground vehicles in mixed battles. And the first thing we'd like to note is the new thermals in its targeting system. Detecting enemies is now much easier. Most of the suspended armament should be familiar if you flew previous machines. Rockets and bombs of various calibers, nothing unusual, except for a few pieces. The Su-25SM3 is the first and so far the only plane in the game that can use the Ha-38 laser and TV-guided missiles. The Ha-38ML cost fewer spawn points and can change target designation mid-flight. The drawback of this is the need to highlight the target continuously. The Ha-38MT is much more expensive, but it can offer fire-and-forget capability. Its performance is so good you can complete a successful attack outside of the range of most anti-air systems. And when enemy AA defenses are down, you can use these missiles in close combat, even in third-person view. The Super Rook has only recently joined War Thunder, but we can already call it a model strike aircraft. (1939) was the year of Kriegsmarine superiority. German destroyers patrolled the North Sea in huge lines akin to a parade, placed mines right into the mouth of the Thames, and could chase anyone, including fishing boats. One thing they were missing: direct air support. But no matter how much the Navy asked for its own planes, the Luftwaffe Field Marshal would cut them down. Everything that flies is mine. He even tried to grab ship-based float planes against common sense. So all the Navy could do was ask the Luftwaffe to please carry a recon mission, and then patiently wait for the information to trickle down through numerous offices and hands. That is, if the mission would actually get carried out. The Kriegsmarine and the Luftwaffe shared neither a system for mapping the waters nor radio frequencies. Nothing at all. Sooner or later, the discrepancy was bound to cause trouble. So on February 22, 1940, a group of 6 destroyers was returning from a raid around the Dogger Bank when a lookout spotted a twin-engine plane. It was flying past the German vessels in the dusk, seemingly studying them. The Germans shed some speed to make their wakes less visible, while the aircraft made a turn in the darkening skies and returned for a second look. And that's when the sailors of the Richard Beitzen and the Erich Kölner jumped the gun and started firing at the aircraft. The plane answered with a volley from its turret, and the light produced by the firing was clear enough to make out the crosses on its wings. It was a Heinkel 111. The destroyers tried to hold their fire, but it was too late as the bomber was on its attack course. 1 bomb away, missed. 2, missed again. But the third one landed right between the bridge and the funnel of the shiny new Leibrecht-Maas destroyer. And while the shocked sailors from the other ships were getting ready to send help to their damaged comrade, a ludicrous explosion basically tore the Leibrecht-Maas apart, and it promptly sank. The remaining destroyers panicked and acted in disarray. Some fired at the receding bomber and performed anti-air maneuvers. Others tried to rescue the survivors. And then, another explosion! The second destroyer, the Max Schultz, burst into debris that flew a quarter-mile away. A mine? An English torpedo? More bombs? Sheer panic seized the sailors. The Theodor Riedel was reporting an acoustic signature of a submarine and some torpedoes, while the anti-air gunners were firing hither and yon, trying to shoot down invisible bombers. Later, when the situation was finally analyzed, the losses were calculated to a bitter total: 2 destroyers and more than 500 souls. The Luftwaffe claimed that the Kriegsmarine had failed to warn them about that patrol. The Naval Command tried to point out that the grievous incident was the exact reason why they needed their own aviation. But the only response they got was the usual: ships go to the Navy, aircraft to aviation. Now that we've studied the arsenals of the F-16, the MiG-29, and the Mirage families, it's time to take a look at another light 4th-gen fighter, the Swedish Saab 39 Gripen, available in 3 modifications. Let's start with air combat and talk about fuel first. The Gripen can carry up to 3 drop tanks, but for realistic combat, 1 in the center should be enough. Available air-to-air weapons include 2 missiles: the infrared-guided AIM-9 for close combat, and the radar-guided AIM-7 for medium range. The latter isn't the latest model, so its flight performance can feel inferior to other missiles of the class in high-rank combat. The Sidewinder M, however, meets the highest bar of a top fighter. Besides, 4 out of 6 of them can be placed on top of special countermeasure pods, which means you can also increase the total number of flares and chaff on your aircraft. It makes sense if you either avoid medium-range missiles altogether or limit their number to just 1 for that first attack in battle. Now, mixed battles offer much more variety in loadouts. We suggest you keep your air-to-air missiles on the external hardpoints as they come in handy against enemy air, but it's not as easy a choice with the drop tank. On the one hand, the internal fuel tanks have enough volume to last for a pretty long session in mixed battles. On the other hand, using a drop tank allows you to employ a clever trick. Fill the internal tanks with minimal fuel, and you can lighten your plane at a click of a button in case of danger, like when you expect a duel. Well, how about some anti-ground weaponry then? Make sure you install a targeting pod. Even if you don't use it for target designation, the built-in thermal vision device is a huge help in finding your enemies. Conventional bombs aren't that good in high ranks, so we'd like to skip them. Laser-guided ones, however, are pretty efficient. This plane can't carry large numbers, so go for larger calibers. We suggest you place the GBU-16 on the external hardpoints and the GBU-24 on the internal ones. Some might note that the 24 has a smaller warhead than the GBU-10, but the former can also offer inertial guidance that improves its accuracy. Besides, half a ton of filler and TNT equivalent is already enough to wipe out multiple targets. An alternative, more expensive option is the Maverick air-to-surface missile. The Hungarian version has 2 options, and we recommend the AGM-65G, the one with the infrared homing device and a high-explosive warhead. Tell us in the comments what aircraft, or maybe helicopters, you'd like to see next. Meanwhile, it's time for us to answer some of your questions. The first question was sent by a player called Tom Yackel. How much fuel do I have to take to get the best air-to-air performance in the Jaguar GR1 with the afterburner? Hi Tom, with the afterburner we suggest you start with 30 minutes worth of fuel. This should be enough for most battles. Try it, and then simply adjust to your playstyle by checking how much you usually have left at the end of the battle. Without asks, what's indicated as F-18 in aircraft RWR? Hi, currently it shows the American F-20 and the Italian Harrier AV-8B+, because they use the same radar as the F-18. Another question comes from Ryan Kristen. Can you make up pages of history about the TOG 2, please? Hi, we've already made one. Check out the episode that aired on November 26th, 2023. Radu Stefan writes, how do I use the Ha-29TE effectively? Hi, with this kind of ordnance, it's not about the pilot, it's about the counteractions of the enemy. The usage is fairly simple. Lock onto the target using your targeting complex, or in third person, and smash that launch button. You really can't control the missile after that. And the last comment for today was written by Spectre Plays Games. Would you recommend 2 drop tanks or 1 on the F-16C and the F-15? Hi, we'd say 1 should be enough in realistic battles. In an active fight, you're likely to spend your ammo much faster than fuel, so you'll need to go back for a reload anyway. You might need 2 or 3 tanks in the simulator enduring confrontation mode, where you sometimes need to fly for an extensive amount of time. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to coordinate with your allies, leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.